Welcome friends back to my channel. In today's video, I will be sharing my homeschool journey as a homeschool graduate turned homeschool mom. This video has been requested and I finally have a chance just to sit down and talk about my experience as a homeschool student and how that affected my decision to then homeschool my own children. So I hope that this video will be a source of encouragement, just knowing that the messy work that we are doing, but it is a good work as homeschool moms, and God will use the fruits of our labor that we are so consistently sowing. So I hope this video will be helpful. If you find it encouraging, maybe share it with a friend and give it a thumbs up, and let's talk homeschool today. So for those that are new to my channel, I am a homeschool mom of 4 children, ages 10, 8, 5, and 2. We've been homeschooling for basically 5 years, but you know, homeschool is life, and so it's been a long time. But what you may not know is I am what we call a second generation homeschooler. And all that means is I was homeschooled. I was homeschooled my whole life. My husband was actually homeschooled his whole life. And it does bring a unique experience and insight into homeschooling my own children and just how that my experience has affected my homeschool. So being a second generation homeschooler and my experience as a homeschool student, most of it was completely positive. And I'm just gonna share some of the things that I really loved about being a homeschool student. So these are things that your kids might one day say when they are grown and old and you've spent all of these countless years with them. And then there's some things that I did not like in school, and it wasn't the homeschool aspect, but just school in general, and how that has helped my philosophy shift a little bit as a homeschool mom. And I've talked to my own mom about this part of the journey, and so I know that she would agree with the things that upon reflection and looking back and just getting an understanding of education, how much that has helped us shape the next generation of teaching. So my mom had 7 kids. I'm the third of 7, 5 boys and 2 girls. And it was in the, late 80s when homeschool was not really a popular thing. And there wasn't a lot of information out there either. But she decided that when my oldest brother became like 5 years old, that she was going to homeschool. Her primary vision and purpose behind homeschooling was that she wanted to have, control over the environment, their spiritual upbringing, and didn't want them to be in the government schools. That was her primary reason if you talk to her, and that was enough vision for her to stay at home. And so I grew up, my parents on a single income, and she stayed home with the 7 kids and worked for 30 years homeschooling us and giving us her life, really. And I have so much respect and love and honor, especially now that I am a homeschool mom, and just know all the love and heart that she put into all of those years faithfully to us children. My favorite thing about being homeschooled was the freedom. So keep that in mind when you're homeschooling your kids. My favorite memories being homeschooled was the fact that I could be done with my school as early as I wanted, as a very motivated child that wanted to do puzzles and crafts and play outside and practice piano. I was like, got up early and would get my school done really quick. My mom's philosophy, she started out with like konos and more like unit studies and books and reading. She didn't know anything about Charlotte Mason, which has formed a lot of my own, but she, without realizing it, did do a lot of the Charlotte Mason way by getting us out in nature, taking field trips, exploring God's world. She read us so many good literature. She also we would go to the library every single week, and we would literally rent stacks of books stacks of books every week, and me and my siblings would have them read by the next library day the following week. There was, before the internet, we would go to the library every Thursday. Like, it was just a habit. So she ensured that we were exposed to just a rich literature education, even though she didn't realize it. And the only thing really, when I reflect back on my own personal home education that I didn't like, and she knows this, I've already told her this, so if she's watching this video, she's aware, was really in my upper years, my high school years. And we were in Illinois at the time, and so, following just the Illinois homeschool laws and creating a transcript. Again, her being a first generation homeschool mom, she really wanted to follow the rules and the textbook and just make sure that we got 3 years of math and, 2 labs and 4 years of history and 1 year of government and all of these checks and balances. And knowing that the curriculum that we used a lot of Apologia, but we used a lot of Bob Jones University. We used Saxon math. Now, I love math, so Saxon, I have no hard feelings about Saxon because I loved math. My siblings, if you ask them about Saxon math, they didn't care for Saxon. Sorry, Saxon. But all of my history, geography, and more like social studies, we used Bob Jones University, which was a textbook. And I was reading so many literature books, which was the redeeming aspect of it, that I could have easily done a Charlotte Mason education if my mom would have been exposed to it. So I dreaded history. I hated the Bob Jones books, and I have PTSD over that. And we just did an open book, and I remember zilch, like none of it, nada of my social studies high school. The history that I do remember is from reading, historical fiction. And I went on to college. And guess what? In college, I had to take, again, U.S. government, U.S. history, all these social studies. And on my undergrad, the associate's degree, I had to get all of these all over again. So there really was no reason to belabor the textbooks because college was going to force me to do that anyway. And so she just didn't know better. And that was really the only thing. I still did it as fast as I could. And we had friends that owned a doctor's office. He was an internal medicine doctor. And because I was a homeschool student, their secretary at the time quit the job. And so I think they were talking to my dad, and he said, yeah, Hannah would love, this part-time job. It was almost full-time. And so I was 2 months shy of turning 16 years old. So I actually had to get a work permit. I went to work for a doctor's office, and I actually worked 32 hours a week. I worked 9 to 5, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And that is how I started saving money. And so at 16 years old, I would do my school when I got home at 5 o'clock, and I would do it on Wednesdays, and I would practice piano. And so I was very just driven with my time management because I wanted to make this money at 16 years old. And because I was homeschooled, that opportunity was something that I was able to do. So I worked at that doctor's office through college, through my associate's degree. And it was such a wonderful experience. I worked with the wife directly. It was very small. It's just the doctor and his wife and me. And literally only good memories of them who have now passed. And it was just a wonderful experience. So being homeschooled allowed me to work. It allowed me to save money. I was able to buy a car. I was able to pay for college. I was able to buy a piano, all of these things. I had my car before I even had my license. And so that was all because I was homeschooled. And that definitely influenced my decision for my own kids. I want them to be able to be entrepreneurs if they wish. I want them to be able to get jobs if they wish, and just help them get started with life. We don't need to prolong this adolescence. I think that that's just part of our society. But if you go back 100 years ago, 14, 15, 16-year-old children were women and men. And so I think as homeschoolers, people always say, oh, they mature so fast, but they really do, because they're given opportunities to have responsibility and be independent. And I think that that is really a good thing. And my reflection, I thought that was a really incredible opportunity. And then I did decide to go to college. Did I need to go? Not really. There was no, relationship in my life that I was pursuing in terms of like marriage and nothing like that. And so I played piano. I was an avid piano player, still am a piano player, and teach piano still a little bit part-time. And I decided I was going to go to college. And I did. So I went and got my associate's degree from a local college, and then I transferred to an undergrad program and did music and business. So this is some encouragement to you if you are in doubt or nervous about homeschooling through the years. My high school was very calm, relaxed. I never wrote a paper. I was working full-time, not full-time, but 32 hours. And I just did things Bob Jones, Saxon. I did the very minimum. And it was fine because I read so much. So if there's one thing that I would encourage you to do with your children is get them books, have them read. Because then when I went to college, I knew how to write because I knew how to read. And so writing came naturally, right? And I still had to take the English courses and the basic, speech courses at my associate's degree. So it wasn't like I wasn't getting opportunity to learn those skills anyways. And it's a fallacy to say that we're not prepared. We are prepared, because if we're reading good literature and we have all of these ideas planted in our minds, then we're going to be good writers and we're going to be able to excel in college as well. And so I went to a local college here. It's called Lake Forest College. And I actually graduated summa cum laude. I was the top 3 in the whole college, and got my actually the senior prize in business. So I'm not saying this to brag, because I'm not right now. I'm a full homeschool mom. This is what I'm doing. I'm just saying I did well in my responsibilities in that season of my life, right? Not that I was trying to fulfill some career or something. I'm telling you this to encourage you that if you have a son or daughter that wants to go on to further education, by all means, what you're doing is enough. It is definitely enough, and they will be more than prepared to go on to a college degree if that is something that they even want to do. Honestly, in reflection, I kind of regret it. I think that I met my husband I was almost 21. We started dating when I was 20. And we had a long engagement because he was in the Navy and he did a tour in Afghanistan. And so it was about 2.5 years, 3 years. We got married, and then I started. But I think that upon reflection, knowing what I know now, I would have encouraged my own child to pursue her entrepreneurial gifts, which was piano. I was playing piano, and not even worry about the degree. Because most of the business opportunities and work that I've done have come through word of mouth and networking, and me honing in on my own skills simply by practicing and learning. And so it was a lot of money. I paid for it. I didn't have to go into, an enormous amount of debt or anything. But because scholarships and whatnot, I still don't know if I would have encouraged that. So I definitely have a different perspective going into it with my own children. And I think in the 2000s and the 2000s and 2010s, I think there was still a big push for kids to go to college, go to college, go to college. Where are you going to college? And it was like you just had to do this thing. Now, I think that we have a better balance with that, even in societal pressures, that is not necessarily going to do you any good long term. It's just like, it can be good. I'm not saying college is bad, but if it's just pushing your adolescence away and you are going to go into a profession that is a skill set, there are just other opportunities for you possibly to pursue. So enough digressing about all of that, but just know that what you're doing is adequate. Absolutely. I didn't write any papers. I literally just read books. and did open book test, and I was perfectly fine in college. So fast forward here, I get married and we start having kids right away because that's what I wanted. I wanted to get married and have 5 kids. I've written about that in my journal since I was like 8 years old. And I knew I wanted to homeschool. But I didn't know anything like in terms of my philosophy of education. In fact, as kind of a type A personality, I defaulted right to checking all the blocks, like getting a book for writing, getting a book for reading, getting a book for math, getting a book for geography, getting a book for language, getting a book. And my oldest, by like 3 years old, we were doing 100 lessons to read, lots of crying, lots of tears. Like, I just wanted to do school with her. I just wanted to do school with her. And my idea of doing school with her was doing books, workbooks, right? And that went on for many years. And 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, going to homeschool conventions, buying all the curriculum, all the textbooks, all the workbooks, all the writing pages, and doing that until she was 7 years old, my oldest. So about 3 years ago, we were in a language arts curriculum, and her math, and not really her math, but mostly her language arts and her writing and her reading. And we were crying and fighting basically every day. And I didn't want this. And perhaps my mom had struggles with us when we were little, and I just don't remember. I'm not sure. Maybe I can interview her sometime on this channel. But I didn't want that. And, fighting and crying and fighting and crying. And I was venting to a sister-in-law of mine about my frustration with my 7-year-old and wanting to not lose her childhood education to tears and fights with her mom. And this wasn't about respect and honor. She was obviously frustrated in the learning style of what I was putting forth. And so my sister-in-law told me about Simply Charlotte Mason, the curriculum Simply Charlotte Mason. I knew nothing about Charlotte Mason. So this would have been actually like 3.5 years ago, almost 4. And I went on the Simply Charlotte Mason website, and I must have spent dozens of hours just researching and watching all of Sonia Schaefer's videos on YouTube, video after video after video. And my sister-in-law said we did the bird study and we really loved that, and the music study and the artist study. She said, just start slow and just start with some of that and see how you like it. And so that's what I did. I ordered a little bit from the Simply Charlotte Mason. We kept with some of the other things that I was using, and we loved the Burgess Bird Book and the Bird Study. And that was kind of like my first introduction to just doing more of a Charlotte Mason. I didn't know anything about narration. None of that was even in the picture yet. It was just a slowing down completely of our life and enjoying some good literature, which I should have suspected since that's what I loved most coming on my own homeschool journey, right? I digress. So it's amazing what we know we ought to do and what we decide to do because of our desire to fill textbooks or something. I don't know. So I met some more friends that were also doing Charlotte Mason homeschooling. And because of that, I joined a book club that my sister was hosting with all of these friends here locally. And we were going to read, this was 3 years ago, we were going to read The Philosophy of Education, Charlotte Mason's Volume 6. And my mind just, wow, that changed everything for me, reading the 6th volume. And I thought that was going to be the cream of the butter. And then last year we read Home Education, and I'm just like, wow, so much understanding and clarity brought to our homeschool and our home. And so a couple years ago, a friend told me about Ambleside Online. And Ambleside was a breath of fresh air for me because it filled in all the areas that I didn't really understand with a Charlotte Mason education. And it also provided all of these book lists. And so we kind of dabbled with that. We were doing some Simply Charlotte Mason, some Ambleside, still kind of family style. And if you go back to my first videos on this YouTube channel over 2 years ago, that's kind of what you're going to see. We were doing like Simply Charlotte Mason with some Ambleside family style. And then last year, I decided to do 99% Ambleside. Of course, I tweaked my Ambleside to how we want it. We still do family styles and morning basket. But it has been so good. I learned about narration. I learned about nature study. I learned about, handicrafts, all of these things. I started adding in slowly to our education. And so if you're a mom, and my daughters are going to be 11 and 9 years old. And this is where we've arrived. This is where we're at. And we're still growing. We're still learning and adding in things. So here's my encouragement to you if you have little ones and you're just starting out this homeschool journey. Don't worry. Just do a little bit at a time. My girls didn't miss out on anything. We learned what we could at the right time when I knew what to do, right? With zero regrets. God is so gracious and so good about using the fruit and the seeds that we're doing when we are doing them with the right heart and the right attitude. So if you're starting out, don't worry and freak out about all the little details. Sometimes I know even looking on Ambleside, my 5-year-old is going to be 6. And so I'm starting him in year 1. And I'm looking at year 1. And if it's a lot, I'm familiar with Ambleside and I'm familiar with the Charlotte Mason curriculum 3 years in, right? More familiar, not perfect. And I would say if it feels overwhelming, then just pick a few things. Maybe do like their history spine and the literature books, and then choose the composer, the artist, and go with that. And then read tales, read their free reads. That is good enough. That is literally good enough. And have them tell you what they're learning about. Narrate it. Have them narrate it. And the thing about narration, and what has blown my mind, is that was probably the biggest component that I missed in my own home education and my education and in even my college education. If I would have known the power of narration and how that would have formed ideas, comprehension, retention, understanding, I would go back and I would have narrated all of my college classes. And I would have saved myself a ton of work cramming for exams, because when they narrate, the recall is so much better. And we get better and better at narrating, right? And so I would definitely encourage anyone, whether you're Charlotte Mason or not, just have them tell back to you what you've read. It is probably one of the most powerful aspects of a Charlotte Mason philosophy, of that way of teaching, and it can be across all types of philosophies in education, is having the children just tell you what you read or what they read. It is probably one of the most powerful things. And then as a mom, I just had to learn to let go and let live as well. And so that's why I love you guys here at my channel. I feel like you're watching me. We are evolving in our homeschool together. And so I look back 5 years and I think about the rigidness, the textbooks and all of that. But I look at myself now and I'm still learning to let go, relax, and enjoy this journey of education. And yes, rhythms are good. Yes, timetables are very helpful and necessary for just a smooth day as a family and many kids and all of that. However, it's okay to cut it when you need to, and to take a break and to shut the book or ditch the book. If your kid doesn't really like it and they're not connecting with characters, there are literally millions, thousands, tens of thousands of incredible literature out there. And so if you're really finding a book boring, pick a different book, right? Because there's so many good books. There's so many good books. Ambleside is definitely a guideline. It is definitely a guideline. So I'm still learning to just relax and be willing to pivot and just enjoy this journey. But I have been so encouraged by the response that I've gotten from my own children, my daughters, how they feel about this past year, how we have just evolved as a family this past year, even though there was lots of bumps and of course butted heads and attitudes on certain days. I can tell you that God has redeemed it. And this has been an incredible year for us. And so that's why I'm so passionate about sharing about what's been working for my family, because I've been there with the butted heads and I've been there where it doesn't work. And I have my own experience of being home educated and what that looked like for me and how some things are not so great. And that's why I kind of, when I see like, you know, textbooks, especially with history and the social studies, I'm like, ugh, because that's literally was my response. And I took that, I put that like as a badge on my shoulder and as that identity. And people would ask me, what was your favorite subject? Math, because I was like just good at it naturally. And then what did you not like? History. I always said I hated history. How sad is that? It's so sad. And now reading, you know, all these books with the girls through Ambleside and Simply Charlotte Mason, I'm like, history is amazing. And I want them to feel that way as well. Whether it's math or history or Shakespeare or whatever it is, I don't want them ever to say, I hate it, because education is supposed to be life. It's supposed to be beautiful. It's supposed to be rich. And I wanted that, but I didn't know how to get it. And that is what Charlotte Mason has done for me. That's what she's done for me. And she has brought the guideline for me and the philosophy of education and home education. And so this summer, we're going to be reading Parents and Children, which is volume 2. And I have no shadow of a doubt that that will also help shape my role as a mother and as a parent in my children as they were growing up. So I know this was kind of a chatty video, but I just wanted to, I know some of you have asked for me to share my story and just what that looked like. And so moving forward, that is my plan. My plan is to just keep refining the Charlotte Mason philosophy, incorporating it into my home and what that looks like, being aware of my child's interest, the things that they love, the things that they sit down and do. Just here's an example. My oldest, she can't even walk by the piano without playing it. That was like me. And so just making sure that she has freedom, time, afternoons, not overbooking her so that she can just sit and play. Just being aware, I want to be more aware of that. And same with my almost 9-year-old, and like, what is she interested in? What does she find fun? How can I nurture that? How can I expose her to ideas so that we can see what interests her and what sparks her imagination? And of course, always trying to get out in nature. And I have 2 boys on the way, right? I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and Lord willing, you know, who knows, maybe more. And so it's just, there's so much ahead of us. And so I'm really just excited. And I just love being on here and kind of evolving and sharing our journey. And I have met so many wonderful moms here on YouTube. It has been truly a joy. And I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for just being part of this YouTube community. In fact, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, I would definitely love to touch base with you on a more one-to-one. So I will always have my handles down below if you want to get to know each other a little more, or shoot me an email. I have YouTube friends now that I'm emailing. So you can always send me an email if you're not on other social media platforms. I would love to get to know you, and we can encourage each other in our homeschool journey. Absolutely. There's no shadow of a doubt that we are in this together. So hopefully this video was just helpful, gave you some insight. It was almost like a reintroduction as well. So probably should pin this to my page. Hi, I'm Hannah. This is a little bit about me and my homeschool journey. But thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you in my next video. Bye.